Hello, hello. Welcome to another Facebook Friday here with Coach Finder Online, a great group to find your coaching fit, whatever your specific needs. I'm Jamie Durner, and I am one of the coaches here, and I am a holistic business mentor coach. I specialize in helping heart-centered professionals who are running their own businesses, usually working in some aspect of the wellness world. And I help them to create a profitable practice, which who doesn't want that? I'm sure if you're here watching that, that's part of your goal. And I help you do it with heart-centered, business-savvy tools to create greater ease. As we get started today, I want to give you a little bit of a background about me and why I'm here before we dive into why you're really here, which is to get some really good, simple, but key things to do to help you connect to and attract the clients that are already out there looking for you. So I myself have a 25-year background in the wellness world, including training in body work, craniosacral therapy, Kundalini yoga, life coaching, of course, aromatherapy, and as a certified Ayurveda practitioner. And over those 25 years, I have been running my own business that entire time as a sole proprietor, both sometimes within situations where I was an independent contractor, but a lot of the times just running my own business. I've also been teaching in Ayurveda schools for 7 years running, doing a lot of their business development as well as practice management. And today, part of my passion is I combine my insider knowledge of the wellness world with very practical business skills and my coaching experience to really support new and growing practitioners, independent practitioners like you, who really want to share your gifts, your purpose, your passion with, frankly, a world that desperately needs your skill. And my role is to make sure that you have the critical inner and outer skills to be able to do that by earning a living. Because let's face it, if we can't earn a living doing what we're doing, we can't be doing it for very long. And I want you to be able to have the same success that I've had over these last 25 years so that you can keep serving your mission. Today, I want to share with you 3 key things you can do to be attracting more of the clients you love and who you have the greatest impact with. And oftentimes there is a correlation there that we're going to talk about. And as I mentioned, a little tip, they are already actually out there looking for you, but you may not be connecting with them because you're missing some of these simple but critical strategies. So my goal is to give you usable tools to really walk away with today and begin to make a good difference. But before we dive in, as I said, I want to share a little bit about my inner why, of why I am here with you today. From a fairly young age, I was aware of 2 things. One is that I have always felt called to make the world a better place in some shape or form, and that I had some issues with money. I grew up in a basic middle-class family. There was no logical reason for that, but over my journey, I did discover some roots of it, or some pieces, if you will. Now, I was great at saving money. So you might think, well, what's the problem? But I actually had trouble spending money, especially if it was my own. You may think that the ability to save and not spend is a benefit. And from a purely outside perspective, that may be true. But really the roots to that growing that drove my bank account were founded more on a place of fear and restriction. And it actually led me to shutting down in parts of my life and my full potential. So long story short, what happened is I discovered years later when I was doing a meditation that I'm going to talk about in just a minute, that really for whatever reason, I came in with what I'm going to call a pattern of scarcity in myself. And that led me to be constricted in a variety of different ways, including how I viewed myself. And that played a role in a 7-year struggle I had in my late teens dealing with compulsive overeating. It restricted me in confidently being able to express myself, not speak up as much in school, be not fully expressive in my relationships. And it also gave me this innate reactive response of saying no to investing in life experiences, especially the more expensive the cost was of that investment, the more my immediate response would be No, I can't do that. So what happened was when I started my Kundalini yoga training, I came across a meditation called Meditation for Prosperity 2. Fancy name, right? And it was all about attracting more of what we call green energy, literally that green dollars that we like to exchange in our world today. And my thinking was, oh, I have this issue with money. If I just bring in more of it, that's going to solve my problems. This was a meditation that was only 3 minutes a day. So it's great because I could do it no matter what, even lying in my bed on my back if I was sick, which was a good thing because I committed to this meditation for 1,000 days. So do the math, those of you who are out there listening, over 3 years. And that's part of the power of Kundalini yoga meditations, is it really helps us transform some of our deep patterning so that we can bring out our best selves. So amazing things happened. In the first year alone, it absolutely worked. My salary doubled. But other cool things kept happening. The more I was able to say yes and begin to engage in the world, which also meant I was spending more money. We did a kitchen remodel. I was taking trips. I was able to actually be balancing my checkbook without it creating anxiety. My checkbook would go down, but then it would go back up very quickly, usually at a higher level, right? And aside from these financial things, my sense of self and my ability to engage in the world from a place of trust and authenticity really strengthened. Because of course, along this 1,000-day journey, what I discovered, as you might guess, is that it really had nothing to do with money. It had to do with my sense of self, my trust in myself, and my ability to confidently be able to stand in the world in that place of trust. So this inner expansion led me to what I call allowed me to be living my divine dharma, to have the courage to start my own business, to step into my larger calling, doing what I felt like really I was meant to do, and to be able to have the abundance around it. And of course, over these 25 years, I discovered many of the external tools that were also really helpful in creating the prosperous practice that I've enjoyed myself, that has been able to pay for my kids' educations, give us many trips, support my family when my husband was out of work for 1.5 years. So really be able to step into that full abundance and step into it in more levels than just that financial place. And the number one thing I discovered in this is that really success and abundance is more than just money, right? Abundance is all levels of ourselves, of our health and our wealth and our ability to stand in relationships in these really powerful ways. That success is grounded on the inside. Yes, we're going to take actions in this outer world, but really it's that inner place of when we are confident that we are able to embrace and then express our unique, magnificent, authentic selves into the world. To me, what I see is that abundance is simply the natural result of that. So my sweet spot, if you will, of making the world a better place one person at a time really became about helping people understand truly who they are in that most magnificent, authentic space, be able to embrace it and express it out in the world. And in doing so, to really lead a fully engaged, aligned, and abundant life, right? And that's going to affect your pocketbook, your relationships, like I said, your health, because when we're aligned with who we are, we're making these good choices. So now that you've heard a little bit about me and my inner why of why I am doing what I love to be doing, I want to begin to talk about you and those of you who are watching and your businesses and your connection with your clients, because I want you to be enjoying this same inner magnificent confidence and that same outer abundance that reflects all of that in all areas of your business and life. And what I have observed as we stand in these places of when we are taking these outer actions align with our inner self, right? And there are outer actions out there. There is work that we need to do in this outer tangible sphere. But when we come from a place of inner inspiration and inner alignment, life flows. It flows easier. The abundant rolls in. It feels better. It feels more fun. And I don't know about you, but I personally would rather have more ease and peace of mind and fun in my life than struggle and stress. So that's my motto. That's what I continue to do on a daily basis, because everything, by the way, that I'm sharing with you today, I continue to practice in my own business. So it's all about, for me, staying connected, following the flow, following the fun. And if it's not feeling good, it usually means there's something that's out of alignment that I need to take a look at and figure out how to modify or tweak, that something's not right. So let's dive into the 3 keys that I find really helpful in terms of attracting those best clients. And you're going to see in here that these 3 keys are actually really connected and revolved around stories. So key number 1 is know yourself. Know your inner why. Why are you doing what you're doing? This is helpful on many different levels. Part of it is going to be what attracts people to you. They're going to be attracted to your story, your mission, your values. It's also helpful to remember that inner why when you hit those days where things are feeling a little bit rocky. And we have those days when we run our own businesses. So you want to know yourself. You want to know your story. You want to know your inner why for your own keep up, right? For your own mission connection, and because it's part of what adds to your unique credibility. People buy people. Yes, they're coming to us for our services, but really part of what they're attracted to is who we are, right? And who we are at that core essence. And that's part of what we want to be talking about. Also, your story is about the experiences you've had. And for many of us, it's about those challenges that we've overcome. So in sharing my story, to just introduce myself, you might have heard some of the challenges that I've overcome, right? I no longer have an overeating pattern. I'm able to stand more fully and really communicate well in relationships. I've overcome this pattern of scarcity so that I'm standing in a vibrant business. Different pieces that you might be resonating with, you might be connecting with. Likely what we've overcome is part of who we will work with. Because we've come out the other side, and people are attracted to that. Oftentimes in marketing, we hear the language around ideal client, our ideal audience. I prefer the phrase affinity audience, because our clients have an affinity for who we are and what we've been through. So when we know our story and can share naturally our story, it's part of what helps us connect to our clients, those clients that are looking for us. Also, you want to know who you are in terms of how you best work in connecting with clients. What are your own natural personality tendencies and traits? Because there are lots and lots of ways to do a business, to connect with people. And none of them are necessarily right or wrong unless they don't fit you. So if you're a person that doesn't love to be center stage, you may not want to spend a lot of your energy giving talks, or at least where people can see you. Maybe you love the anonymity of webinars. Or maybe you're an amazing writer, and that's how you connect with people, through some of those written blog posts or articles or Facebook or social media posts. So you want to find your inner marketing message and know who you are so that you can share it in the way that's most natural and comfortable for you. So that's all part of what I say is knowing yourself and your story. Key number 1. That dovetails into key number 2, which is you need to identify who gets your best work, who you love, right? Who you love to work with, and really get to know their story. Now, as practitioners, you very likely have a diversified skill set, and you may be able to help many different people. But there are going to be some clients that, 1, you simply have a better impact with, a bigger impact with, and 2, that you enjoy being with more. And really, when we're looking at identifying your natural affinity audience, it's people that that you have a win-win relationship with. Both people need to feel good in the relationship and enjoy it. And really, you should be walking away from the time you spend together feeling more enlivened and uplifted and energized, not drained. So part of it is to begin to look at who do you really love being with, who gets great results. And take some time and identify what are the qualities and characteristics of these people that make them your best audience, right? They get your work, your best work, because it's really the best fit. So identify that. And then the other part of that is you really then want to understand why they're coming to you, because you guys might love each other, but in order for them to be a client, to get benefit from your services, you have something they want and need in terms of a problem they're having. So you want to become as clear as you can of understanding that top of the mind problem and challenge that they're experiencing of why they're coming to you. And I say top of the mind because this is what is most prominent in that they see the problem is. As a practitioner, you might know there are many more pieces that are connected to that top of the mind problem, and that's okay. Part of in working together, you're going to help them understand those other layers of it. But first and foremost, you want to be speaking to what they identify the problem as, how it makes them feel, how they perceive it, even the exact words that the majority of these clients are using to describe the problem. You want to understand that. And then go deeper. Understand how this problem is affecting them. How is it impacting their health, their relationships, their job, their life? So dig deep and really see if you can understand more of the big picture of that. And then in addition to understanding the problem or the challenge, you want to understand where they want to be going. And I will tell you that sometimes they themselves haven't fully been able to identify or express that pleasure place that they would rather be instead of that pain place. And as you become more skilled in having these connecting conversations, part of what you're going to do is you're going to help them spell out what that place looks like so they understand and can tap into the value of it. The more you can understand those two places and be able to describe it, really paint a picture of it in a compelling and an emotional way, not because we're wanting to manipulate them, but really just to help them understand what it is they're experiencing and where they want to go, the more connection you're going to have with them when you're talking about it. All right? When you're able to describe the value, that person, and by the way, in describing that, you want to be as specific as possible. So we don't want to be vague in general. It's going to be more specific. And when you can describe that value in those specific terms, people are going to go, wow, you really get me. This person totally understands what I'm dealing with and where I want to go. And they're going to have confidence in you, especially as you add the next layer of story we're going to talk about. And they are going to be more likely to sign up with you for your services if it's a right fit. Because really, we only want our right fit clients. And as you might see, part of this process is you're going to end up with a narrower affinity audience. And that's okay. We do our best work usually with a smaller group of people, and then we become the experts for that group of people. And just because we've narrowed our niche doesn't mean that we can't work with people outside of it, but we gear the bulk of our marketing toward that niche. That's also what allows us to work smarter instead of harder. Because once we've specified out who we're really working with, we can have very tailored marketing messages at all levels of our conversation. And it just creates a stronger connection, more likely that people are going to sign up for it. And when they do that, by the way, money is really not an issue. When people see and feel the value and feel that you can help them, they're going to want to invest, especially if they're ready. If that value's there, how much money they have in the bank account really isn't necessarily relevant. There are people who have lots and lots of money in their bank accounts. But if you don't have something that feels of value to them, they're not necessarily going to give you that money. Likewise, you can have people that have less money in a bank account. But if what you have is a high priority for them, they will find a way to invest in themselves. And they're not giving you the money. They are investing in themselves and what you have the ability to help them get to with that investment. And that's part of what you're going to help them see. So I want to give you just an example of specific versus vague to help you think about how you might want to begin to look at or frame your clients, because it does make a difference. So as I describe these, just see how they land. So if you say, I work with people who are stressed out, how does that land to you guys who are listening? Yeah, it might be interesting. Stress is a big thing in our world, but not a kind of real big impact, right? But if I were to say, I work with female corporate executives who are close to burnout because of their stress levels, and they're experiencing digestive issues, they're having trouble sleeping, they're anxious, and they're so anxious that they're having heart palpitations, right? They're even struggling with staying mentally focused throughout their day, and their relationships are becoming strained, both at home and at work, because of this stress. How does that land? Does it paint a different picture for you? And if you are one of those female corporate executives that is experiencing that, is that going to speak more directly to your heart in a heart-centered way? Not because I'm making you feel bad, but because you're really feeling what's going on, right? And then you would add a piece of that. And I help these women find a place of balance, right? Where they can reduce their symptoms with natural methods that can be incorporated in small steps so it doesn't add to their overwhelm. And they can get back to enjoying that vibrant energy and those positive relationships, and even make their way up that corporate ladder should they choose, right? That's going to be a more compelling message. This ties into then our last key, the key number 3, of being able to use your stories to stand out to your clients. I've already talked about your story and their story, and you're beginning to see that overlap, right? There's one other set of story that really helps them to bridge those two pieces together. And that's client stories or testimonials, success stories, case studies, however you want to refer to them. That when we can, in conversations, begin to share ways that we have helped other people, it adds to our authentic credibility, right? And we're telling these in a very similar kind of A to B scenario of people came to me at this point A, and I did my magic here, and they got to point B. And we're really focusing on the A and the B, by the way. We don't talk a lot about our process or what we do. They're kind of interested in that, maybe, but really they want what our process can give them, which is that point B, those results. So we don't want to lead with our process or what we do. We want to lead in client-oriented language, their pain, where they want to go. And we add our credibility by sharing client stories that are reflecting that, right? So I have a client who came to me with something similar to you. She was another female executive. She had been diagnosed with adrenal fatigue. She was really concerned about being on the medications and the impact that was going to have. And we were able to not only be able to bring her body back into a place of strong energy, she was able to not stay on that medication for very long, right? So you're sharing a similar story. This also is more comfortable for us because as heart-centered professionals, we don't necessarily love to be out there feeling like we're bragging about ourselves. So how do we talk about our credibility and make it feel natural, and also create a layer of trust with our potential clients? And case studies or testimonials are the perfect tool to use. If you haven't taken some time to look at the clients that you've helped and begin to put some of those together, that's absolutely one of the things I would recommend. And then you want to start using those stories, those success stories, in a variety of different ways. On my websites, I have a whole page of success stories. And I say on it, this isn't to toot my horn, but it's really to help you begin to see the possibilities for yourselves. Remember I said that a lot of times clients have trouble fully understanding their pleasure place where they want to be? We are hardwired to relate to and connect to each other's stories. And so when we hear about each other's stories, it gives us glimpses of, wow, that sounds really good, and I would like to get more of that. So you have a success story page, but you're also weaving those success stories in smaller snippets throughout your website, in social media, throughout email campaigns, and in your conversations in natural, appropriate ways, right? It's part of what brings it all together. So let me give you an example here, again, of a client of mine. So I helped an Ayurveda practitioner several years ago, this was. She came to me and she was feeling challenged she was experiencing lack of confidence. She had a real fear for the financial future because she was wanting to transition out of a corporate job into doing more of her heart-centered work. And she was overwhelmed and stuck in procrastination. With 4 months of business coaching, I was able to support her into transitioning from a 21-year corporate job to successfully launch her own business. And part of it was she redefined what she wanted to do. Instead of focusing on Ayurveda, she actually ended up focusing on part of a skill that she had that she didn't think she could do a business with, which was animal communication. And when she realized with her clarity, her passion, her focus, it led her to putting her energy out there in such a positive way, because her confidence increased by 60%, that suddenly she was attracting more clients than she had time in her schedule or energy to work with. It led her to training with an internationally renowned teacher that she is now a protege of, getting referrals and recognition from that relationship. So that's an actual testimonial experience of a client that I've worked with. If you go to my website, at some point you can see that she's put her name and her experience out there. And if you listen to part of what that was, again, it had the A to the B. It also had some specifics in there. The more specific we can be in terms of timing, in terms of results, in terms of percentages, it's also more powerful. So think about orienting some of your stories that way. So these are 3 really great keys and tools to use to build a stronger radiant energy in yourself and allow that radiant energy to naturally be connecting and attracting the clients that you love. So to summarize, you want to use these connections, these stories, to guide the conversations and the natural next steps. You want to identify who your best affinity client is, who's going to connect with your own story and credibility. You want to engage in client-oriented, heart-centered conversations, speaking in their language, not your practitioner speak language, right? Then they're going to get the glazed over deer in the headlights look. And emphasizing the benefits from a client's perspective, the results they're going to get. After you've done that, don't forget to point them in the next step direction. Don't leave them hanging. So at every stage of our client connecting conversations, they're going to be ready for something, right? It could be the next step of getting to know you after having an initial conversation. It could be after they've been to a talk that they're ready to have maybe an enrollment conversation and learn more about your services. Could be maybe if it's just a casual conversation or a casual connection, they're going to join your mailing list. Whatever it is, you need to be telling them and guiding them what that next step. And ideally, at every stage, there is one good next step. Don't want to give them too many choices that can overwhelm and again prevent people from taking that right action. So think about what feels like the natural right step at each stage of those conversations. But if you've just met someone at an event and you invite them as the next step to sign up for your 6-month signature program that costs $10,000, that's going to feel weird. It's going to be awkward because it's not a natural progression in that conversation. So you want to explore what is that natural progression. All right. So I hope that you have been able to get some great information for yourself today that you can apply into action. In just a minute, we're going to open it up to questions. I'd love to talk about anything that might have come up around these specific pieces of information, as well as just any challenges or things that you might be experiencing that you want a little help with. And before we do that, I do just want to mention, as part of being here on the Coach Finder Online, I have a special opportunity for you if you're ready for a next step. One of the things you've heard me say throughout this conversation is, for me, that importance of really being connected and knowing your authentic self and taking your actions from that space. All of my coaching programs, whether they're my group programs or my individual programs, start with a series of activities that I call Discover Your Magnificent Self. And I have a session that I guide people through that. It's that foundation session of my coaching activities, but people can sign up and do them on their own because it's so powerful. And what I do is guiding people through these activities really to get underneath that conditioned part of ourselves, right? Conditioned through our experiences, through those family messages or cultural messages, and really dig out what is our most magnificent authentic self and what is important to us. And when you get that information, you get what I call your inner yes compass points that literally you can use to hold up and guide you with every decision you make, every action you're considering, all the collaborative relationships, and say, does this line up with me? It was actually that client testimonial that I shared in this particular session that she got the clarity that although she loves Ayurveda and still uses it to a certain degree, that working with animals and animal communication was her top heart purpose. She got it during this session, and it literally changed the course of her entire practice and career and allowed her to make that transition. So it's a really powerful session, and I would love to share it with any of you listening that are ready for it. So I'm offering a 50% off special price just for you. In the Facebook, you'll see that there's a link that will take you to that page, and you have access to it until the end of January. So this is a great time to begin to reorient yourself to where you're going for this next year and what you want. And it's also a time of giving. So I'm really giving abundantly to you with this spacious time of, it's not one of these, you got to take advantage of the next 48 hours. No, give yourself the time, and when it's right, when you get either before the holidays or after the holidays, if it feels right to you, then certainly you can use that to move yourself forward. So that's what I've got for you today, and I'd love to open it up to see, does anybody have any questions that you want to ask or anything that you want to share, comment on, any ways that I can support you today? All right, so one of the clients or questions coming up in the Facebook chat here is, what's a natural way to discuss costs with potential clients? That's a great question. And frankly, talking about prices or costs, especially when we run our own businesses and we feel like the cost is about us, can feel uncomfortable. So there's a couple of great techniques that I use. One is when you're talking about things, even though you are the practitioner that is doing the work, this is a time where we can talk about what we do rather than it being us a little bit. That helps create a little bit of a buffer. So for instance, as an Ayurvedic practitioner, when I'm having a client enrollment conversation and we get to that point about price, and by the way, we don't get to it until after we've had kind of that value setting time period, we're seeing if what I have to offer really is of value to a client, then I'm bringing in the price. And what I say is, with the Ayurveda work that I do, here's the results that you can get, and here's the investment that you can make in Ayurveda to get you where you want to go. So talking a little bit then about our programs or the process adds a little bit of buffer so the price doesn't feel like, it's just me. So that's one piece of it. And part of it, again, is the right timing of when we do that. So like I said, rather than leading with cost, and the reason, in fact, I do enrollment conversations rather than just telling people what the cost is it doesn't give us the opportunity to see really whether there is value. So a person might shut down without even recognizing whether it's a good fit for them. So one of my first step in after meeting people usually is I have this complimentary 20-minute success strategy session with me, and I ask them questions about themselves. So I get to know them, I get to know what's important for them, then I share a little bit about myself, again, from client-oriented language, so I'm building that trust and credibility if it's a right fit. And then if it is, I say, you know, I honestly think that what this Ayurveda program that I have can absolutely help you. And here's the investment of what that is. And notice that I'm using the term investment rather than cost. And there can be a difference in how words affect us. I talk about when looking at whether you're going to take action for yourself is think about the cost that this problem is creating for you, this cost in your life. What is the cost if you don't move forward? And then what is it going to get you if you invest in yourself? Yes, you're putting that money out there, but you're not just spending the money, you're investing the money to get the returns, those dividends, those gains. So I'm helping them understand the costs of not taking action in terms of the impact on their life, as well as the benefits, the dividends that the investment is going to lead to. And I find that those pieces make that money conversation flow more smoothly. Let's see, any other questions? Looking back in the chat box here. I'm going to just give it a minute because sometimes some of us, our questions percolate a little bit more slowly to the surface. So just giving you a minute to see if any other questions pop up in our chat box here. And if not, know that this will be here on the Coach Finder online Facebook page, that certainly you can come back here, post some questions. I'm going to come back in today and over the next couple days, and I will continue to answer questions. I'll also provide a link to my Coach Finder online page where certainly we can continue this conversation. So whatever shape or form I can help you get some of your questions answered and get you moving into that place of not just developing your successful practice, but living your abundant practice in life, that's what I'm here to do. So today we're going to sign off. It's a kind of cold, dreary afternoon here in Kansas, but we're at the end of the week, so I invite you all to have a fabulous weekend, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. All right, Jamie Durner, signing off.